like for instance, I've been following this Clips rollout heavy. And what if, you were able to sit inside of a room, deck out the space and be able to just like purchase a ticket and go listen to Let God Sort 'Em Out in full, top to bottom. And you hear it not only with just like regular speakers, you hear it with, hi-fi speakers, or you hear it with speakers that are Dolby Atmos powered, where you can feel it in a 360 space and environment, so you can feel it all around you. Because if you have Apple Music, or if you have an AirPods Max headphones, then you may have seen this, and a lot of artists now are remastering their albums to fit this format. So now
When did you first feel like you had something that you needed to say through art? And when did it become a feeling that you couldn't ignore? Today, we talk to Elliott McKnight, who is a multidisciplinary creative director and strategist who blends art, tech, music, design to truly redefine what we see as fine art. Are you ready to get seriously creative? Elliott, thanks so much for being here.
thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, actually, I know I gave my intro, but I always love to ask creatives, who are you in your own words? Who's Elliott?
My name is Elliott McKnight, and I'm a 360 visual artist in residence at the Fulton County Public Future Labs. The concept that I'm working on right now is called Small World. There's this feature called Tiny Planets that is used with the 360 camera. And so I wanted to compare that feature with the idea that when you're in Atlanta, it's a small world. But I'm showcasing the small world of Atlanta in the creative community as well, and the other communities that kind of intersect within that. Elliott is a designer, artist, and really somebody that just wants to help as many people as possible and help them solve their creative problems.
How do you help people solve creative problems?
So the first thing I like to do is listen and really try to figure out what their pain points are and where they're at in their practice or their business or whatever the case is, and try to help steer or guide or just add some different perspective to what they have going on, and hopefully we can get to a solution. And I usually like to try to push people into the deeper ends of the water. So, and that's what's fun for me right now.
That's dope. And I know that we talk so much about how many different art forms that you love, but you told me that music is your true first love, your
Yes.
true first love of art.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So it's always been around, and it's always been something that has been a passion of mine. I can't remember a time where it wasn't. And it came directly from my parents, and my father actually recorded music when I was really young. And he allowed me to go to the studio with him sometimes. I have some background vocals with him, and he would do this Christian R&B type of vibe. And I was probably like 7, 8 years old, and I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time, but my dad would actually have me help him with his mix or give him critiques on the mix.
Wow.
And so he'd be like, "Man, El, how does this sound?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, Dad. It still sounds like you in the bathroom singing it." And what I didn't know at the time, but I was really probably saying that it's like, maybe it's too much reverb, or it's like, or something like that. And just being a part of that, and when I would go to, well, let me back out some more. My dad grew up in the church and things like that, so in the Pentecostal church. He's born and raised in Gainesville, and when we would go to church or anything like that, he would during when the choir would play or the band would play, he would always ask me like, "Yo, you hear that bass?" And I would kind of like, I'd be like, "Yeah, like, oh, that's not," but I didn't know what he was talking about. Like, I didn't even know what bass was, or even to know to listen for it. And so I didn't realize that my dad was teaching me how to listen to music.
Right.
And
an ear, like growing your ear.
Exactly. So he kind of got me started with that young, and then my mom was just really big into to hip hop, and that's because she grew up in like upstate New York, so she was around when the birth of hip hop was going on.
That's dope.
And so like her favorite artist is Jay-Z,
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, like she actually just sent me a link last night. I have to show it to you. She just sent me a link last night. I guess Jay-Z was performing in Paris recently, and he was performing, and it was just like a huge crowd. And so she just sent me that out of nowhere, like no
Wow.
context. No, she just sent the link, and I was like, "Yo, that's your guy, right?" She's like, "Yeah, that's my guy." So that's her favorite artist.
That's so cool.
And
That's
yeah, so
dope.
I've been listening to like all the Rockefeller, records, and just been following that whole thing since I was really young. So yeah.
That is so dope. What time or at what point did it really, become something that you loved? How did it really evolve over time from your parents and their musical influences to something that you took in as your own?
That's a good question. I was lucky because my mom would go to Circuit City. I'm kind of aging
Oh
myself a
my
little
gosh,
bit. Yeah.
Circus City. That's
Yeah,
right.
Circuit City. And so at Circuit City, like on Mondays, they would had a crazy deal,
Mhm.
and you would get the album for like $5 or something like that.
Mhm.
And so she would come home with all these CDs, and I think that in middle school, and that's just like an impressionable time in your life. So I was lucky to be around. Like I was in middle school when like the Carter 2 came out, and Late Registration, and the Black Album. Just a lot of these albums were coming out, and even like Pharrell with like the way that he was dressing and moving at the time, and the Neptunes. I was just super inspired, and then that just kind of snowballed into me getting into high school, and I was just to myself just writing, starting to write lyrics and started to write raps and then freestyle. And I remember I freestyled on the bus at school one time, and I guess I impressed one of my closest friends, and he was like, "Yo, you probably might want to like dive into this a
For
little bit more."
real.
Yeah, so
So
he let
cool.
me. He lived down the street from me, or not down the street. He lived in the same neighborhood, and I would go to his house, and I kind of made like this makeshift, my first little studio in his backyard, but it was in the shed. It's a terrible place to record. Now that I'm looking back, terrible place. Just like all metal and just everything's bouncing off the walls. But I was able to record in there, and that's where it kind of started. So I learned
That's
like how to record
nice.
myself and all those things. Yeah.
I mean, and what was your stage name? It sounds like, is L a part of it? Because that's what your
I
dad
had
called
some
you, right?
bad stage
Oh
names.
my goodness.
Okay,
We
so
have to know now. Now I
all
need to know.
right. So for a couple years, I was going by Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage, tell me why.
I was.
He's so nervous. This is so funny.
Oh man, I didn't anticipate this one. Yeah, I was going by that because I just liked the name. I thought it was cool, and I was like a Mortal Kombat fan,
That's
and
dope.
yeah, I changed like the C on Cage to a K,
Yeah.
and he was like the only one in that realm that was like cool. He had the shades. He didn't have like any crazy like super crazy talents or anything. Like he was just like just really just hands and fists, and I thought that was crazy. And from there, I just was kind of rapping my name, and then I went by EMK for a little bit
Okay.
in college, just because those were like all the capital letters in my name. And so I went by that for a second, and then I just kind of went by my name.
That's
after a
kind of
while.
cool, though. I like that EMK. You might not know this about me, and many of you might not know this, but I was a rapper too in college, in high school.
Really?
And I'm not even playing with you. Like my name was L. It was LEB.
Why
Because my
LEB?
name because my name is Christelle Beecher.
Oh,
And I
okay,
took
okay.
L. But here's the thing, I didn't realize that ELL as a child, as a young, in high school, was L. That was how it was supposed to be pronounced, and I made people call me Ellie. I don't know. We don't have to park there and think about it too long. Let's not think
Yeah.
about it too
No,
long.
no. But
But
I get that.
it was really a thing, and I had mixtapes. I was posting music online. This is on YouTube. And these are the days that Nicki Minaj was a thing, that she was starting to come out, like early, like 2008, 2009 time. And my mother found them online on YouTube and immediately told me, you need to take every single one of them.
I
She
know
said,
that
what is
feeling.
this?
I know that.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, what was that? Was that like a phone call? Or was that in person?
It was in person. She had
Ooh.
it pulled up on the computer and she pointed to it. right? She wanted
Ooh.
me to have to face it and experience it in the moment with her. It was really embarrassing and really, really awkward. Yeah.
Mm.
We won't even talk about what I was talking about, but that's okay.
I can say
Okay.
I know that feeling of having to walk into a room and have somebody like, yo, what is this, bro?
What's
Like, what are you doing?
happening?
Yeah,
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 really
yeah.
bad.
Yes.
And I mean, even speaking of that, high school, college, these are like really formidable years for
Mm-hmm.
our career and how we see ourselves and even self concept. And I know you told me that even your move to Atlanta was really inspired by music
Yeah.
back in 2015, 10 years ago.
Yep.
But I know there were some pivots with your art and the true art form that you practice a little bit more today. And I'm curious about that. What was that pivotal turning moment for you when you took music and you put it in your toolkit, but you started to bring out other true art forms that you truly like too?
Yeah, it came about out of, just a frustration that I didn't think people were taking me seriously enough when I was
Hmm.
saying that I was a music artist.
Hmm.
And when you present yourself as that, at least at that time in Atlanta in 2015, where it was like the peak of everybody was trying to do that,
Yeah.
it was the conversation was like, oh, okay, you're just a rapper, like
Yeah.
all right, whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, hold on, bro, like I'm lit for real.
I'm
And so
EMK.
yeah, I'm like, man, I can do other things. I can help out. So from that space, I've realized and I started to learn that to be an artist is one of those things where you have to have multiple. You are a multi hyphenate by
Mm-hmm.
default
Mm-hmm.
if you're working in music, because if you're a music artist and you're building uh, uh, your own career, then you have to understand like art direction. You have to understand creative direction. Like that's what you're doing. You have to understand graphic design for your album arts or your cover arts.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand mixing and sound design at a certain point.
Yeah.
If you really get into the weeds of what you're doing,
Yeah.
you are doing video production. Like you have
Right.
to understand that too. If you're doing any type of marketing for yourself or any type of photos, like you have to go figure out what you're gonna wear, what
Mm-hmm.
photos look good and why they look good, and how to communicate that and learn the different languages of a photographer, of a
Yeah.
video director, of a web designer. If you want to make your own website, you have to
Mm.
figure that out. And so I was already doing these things for myself,
That's kind of dope.
and I realized that, oh, I could do this for other people as well too.
Right.
I was just doing so much for myself. It took me a while to realize like, oh, I can just switch the knob from,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm just doing this all for me, to doing it
Mm-hmm.
for other people. And people would take me a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
seriously, or take me a little bit differently. And it could also help pay for, to be honest, or pay
Right.
for studio time, or pay to like, be
Mm-hmm.
able to do these things. So that was kind of like my mindset on that at the time.
That's actually very smart. And I think a lot of people who are the most successful in their art or in their brilliance, right, are people who go really deep and they explore all facets of something they truly love. Grab your favorite Goalie gummies online with the subscribe and save option. Why? You should probably know the perks of Goalie support to our health. Apple cider vinegar gummies have vitamin B9 and N12 to help support nutrient metabolism. And ashwagandha gummies are made with clinically studied KSM 66 ashwagandha to help promote better sleep and more. They even have chocolatey bites now that help you with an afternoon chill if you're getting off work or you're stuck in a creative fog. Save 25% off of your initial purchase when you go online and subscribe. And you can also save 15% off if you choose to do recurring orders. Cancel at any time, okay? There's no fees, there's no contracts. And use my discount, Christelle, at checkout for better savings.
Hmm.
And I don't think a lot of us think about a music artist that is multidisciplinary in that way, right? I know how to create my own graphics. Usually, sometimes artists might have to partner with someone to do design or for
Hmm.
them to understand dimensions of, the best way to put a banner up when they're going to promote a new release or something like that, right?
Exactly.
So not everybody has that skill set. So that is a really, really neat thing that you've done. And I'm curious, always curious, do you feel that with music and these new visual storytelling, channels that you've grown, you've distanced yourself from music, or do you feel that you've added music right back into the blend of all of your art forms?
That's a good question too. So for a while, I had distanced myself from music, unfortunately, and that was at least from me practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would make beats and things like that, here and there, and record myself. But there was definitely a period where I really stepped away, and I was trying to figure out how to incorporate it back into my practice and what I'm doing. And one of the ways I found that out was a concept I have called Sonic Room. And that was inspired by Japanese hi-fi bars. And we're seeing a lot of that pop up now. I think it's becoming like a lot more trendy, especially like in a lot of metropolitan cities. And what I wanted to do was combine my love for, you know, creativity and tech and sound and blend it all into one, because that's one of the challenges that I had was like, how do I fit everything that I'm into one?
Yeah.
And so Sonic Room is a place where, you know, well, I like to call it, it's like the movie theaters for music. And so when you go to a movie or go to see a film, say for instance, Spike Lee is dropping a film, Ryan Coogler is dropping a film, you're going to the movie theater because that is the format that they intended you to experience that art in.
Yeah.
And it's set up, it's a platform for it, and it's at the highest quality possible. With music, it's not necessarily set up in that way and in that structure, because a lot of times music is a secondary experience that towards something else. So for instance, if you're getting in a car right now, you leave and go somewhere, you may be in the car, but you're not getting in the car just to listen to music. You're getting in the car because you have to get to point A to point B.
Right.
Or if you go to a bar or something like that, then you're going to hear music in the background, but it's not like you're going to the bar just to listen to music.
It's not like consciously, you know.
Exactly. It's always around and it's in the air.
Yeah.
But it's rarely like the main focus. And I was like, that's strange to me. Like we should treat it with that same intention, because if, you know, like for instance, I've been following this Clips rollout heavy, and what if, you know, you were able to sit inside of a room, you know, deck out the space and be able to just like purchase a ticket and go listen to Let God Sort 'Em Out in full, top to bottom. And you hear it not only with just like regular speakers, you hear it with, you know, hi-fi speakers, or you hear it with speakers that are Dolby Atmos powered, where you can feel it in a 360 space and environment, so you can feel it all around you. Because if you have Apple Music, or if you have an AirPods Max headphones, then, you know, you may have seen this, and a lot of artists now are remastering their albums to fit this format. So now we're going from a stereo format to a Dolby Atmos format, where it's just left and right, to now we're getting like the full encompass of sound that you can feel enveloped and embodied in.
Right.
And I would love for people to experience that, and I think that's the highest level of experiencing sound.
I love it. And it's, I know we mentioned that, but it sounds like almost like listening parties become more of an experience, right?
Exactly.
Because technically, sometimes when you do a listening party, you may have to go to a studio to get that type of sound.
Exactly. And it's rarely built in. And, you know, you want to have that. So we did a test, a pilot. I had a residency 2 years ago now, here in Atlanta, with Full County Arts and Microsoft. And I was able to take some of that time to build it out in person. And we invited, you know, I think we had like 30 people come by. It was an intimate experience, but we turned the whole space into like a bunker, to like almost like a submarine. And the concept was keep swimming. And the reason why we said that is because, you know, really when you listen to music, you know, when you're bobbing your head, you know, if you almost kind of look like a fish in water, like you're swimming through, and it goes to the idea of, you know, the formats that music is mixed and mastered in, like the wave format. So like taking a wave, keep swimming and all, and just like kind of trying to tie that
That's
together.
dope.
Thank you.
That's
and
really dope.
you know, putting people into space, and so hire like these guys to travel down to have the speakers, you know, going crazy. And it was a great experience. And we had some visuals to go along with it as well. And so that's another thing too. Like these artists spend a lot of money and time on music videos. Like, what if you could see the have you seen like that Rocky video that he dropped last year, where he was like, oh man, I gotta show it to you.
We're
It's
going to
insane.
plug it in.
Yeah, we
We'll
got
plug it.
It's the Taylor Swift video. Insane. But imagine if you saw that on like a huge like screen.
Yeah.
And or what if, you know, you saw the Beyonce Lemonade short film
Right.
in the right format, instead of like on your phone or on,
Right.
you know, your YouTube or laptop. Like that was a film. Like she had
Yeah.
Khalil Joseph and all that
Yeah.
directing, and but if you were to see that in full,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm sure that Beyonce would love for people to see that like in a theater
Right.
or some type of space that is formatted for that
Mm-hmm.
And I just believe that, you know, the what the word I'm trying to say, the interaction or the perception of music has changed a little bit due to
Mm-hmm.
how accessible it is.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that it is a fine art.
Yeah.
Like it's a fine art. Just like
I love it.
you know, if you're a sculptor, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
painter, like these are sonic painters,
Mm-hmm.
and they deserve that same type of respect for the way that their art is consumed.
I completely agree with that.
Yes. So if you get a MoMA,
Yeah.
you should get a Sonic Room if you're a music artist. Or if you get a, you know, if you get a Regal Theater or AMC, like
Yeah.
what is that for music?
I mean, how dope would it be if you are this trailblazer for Sonic Rooms, and that's the next movie theater, that's the next wave. And here's the thing: right now in the industry, they're trying to get people to come back out and go to see movies in theaters now, rather than watching it at home or
Absolutely.
watching it online. You know, we still do have those free websites for movies. Okay, so people
Hey,
are watching the movies online.
facts.
I'm not saying that the creative corporate, we're not a proponent for that. Okay, but you know, what would it take for people to really come outside again and to experience something new,
Hmm.
something immersive in a new way that hasn't been done yet? And that could be the Sonic Room. So
Hopefully so.
we're saying it right here on Behind the Creative. Okay, you're gonna become the new move, the new wave of what's gonna, you know, get people to come outside again. Okay,
Hopefully,
we said
yes.
it. Okay, well, I mean, like, do you feel like your creative voice or capacity has become more clear because of these other art forms that you've, you know, enmeshed yourself in? Or do you feel like there's a point where you're going to go back to music 100%?
Man, I would love to go back to music 100% at some point in my life, and I think that there's some days I feel like the clarity, and then some days I will, to be honest, I feel like, man, you know, maybe this is all being built up to be able to do the music, you know, at some point in a more full capacity, or you know, a little bit more on a day to day. And I believe that, you know, I think that when I was younger, I had like a very all or nothing mentality when it came to music. So when I was like, man, if it ain't music, I ain't, no, I'm not doing it. And I've learned as I gotten older and like dove into different things that it doesn't have to be that way. And there's other ways for me to be able to scratch that itch within the different things that I'm doing. So for instance, you know, even like again with the Sonic Room and different projects that I may have I'm working on, you know, if I work on a video, I can always create something to go along with it, or I can, you know, make something that, you know, might be a quick EP or a song, or it could be anything at this
Yeah.
point. And I think that I was very, to be honest, like narrow-minded in terms of like how it could fit into my life. But as and we talked about this a little bit at one point, like, you know, the main thing was like trying to figure out how can I afford to do that, and how can I pay to do that, and you know, and also just like it's a strange fear, but it's almost a fear of like I care about it so much that I'm nervous that I might go so far down that rabbit hole that I just say like I go back to my old self and be like I don't want to do anything else anymore. And so I'm in a space now where I'm building out a lot of infrastructure to be able to support that and be able to go into that space without this feeling or need for it to be my everything from a financial perspective,
Yeah.
from a emotional perspective, all the things, and just having
Yeah.
like probably like a more healthy relationship with it.
You know, I feel like you led really beautifully into what I wanted to ask you about next, because I know that when we explore other parts of ourselves and we feel like we're no longer centering something that meant so much to us, actually, we pick up a lot of things along the way that we can then bring into the passion that we have, that we can center alongside with, in your case, music. And I honestly think that you have something which is so brilliant, right? Within the concept of the Sonic Room, which does bring together all of your passions in a very cohesive, unique, and innovative way. And I think that's what you do so well. You're very innovative.
Thank you.
And I want to talk a little bit about the tech piece of that too, because I know in creative spaces, sometimes the tech is almost like a byproduct of, you know, engineering the final product. But how do you forefront or center tech like in spaces like the Sonic Room or in what you do?
Yeah, so with the Sonic Room specifically, I really, well, let me back up a little bit more. Again, in terms of the inspirations, there are a lot of like, different people are doing something that is like, in the same vein or similar space. And I wanted to add like a differentiator that is true to me. And the tech piece is like something that is true to me that I'm highly interested in. And so again, going into the space of like how the sound is coming out, because, you may see a lot of people may have a hi-fi room that may focus on vinyl specifically, or, they may grab like these hi-fi, speakers that might be $20,000, $30,000. I really want to focus on the format that is coming out, which is an Adobe Atmos, and having a stereoscopic like sound that envelops you across the board. And so that's something that kind of gives it like a little bit of a unique feel to it, and indirectly or almost passively allow people to experience that and be able to say like, oh wow, that's different. Like, okay, now I hear like these birds chirping back this way, but then I hear a vocal coming from the front, and then I hear, the bass almost floating underneath me. It's like, oh, what's going on? And so that's something that's really interesting. And then, overall, I've been diving into and just like trying to blend in tech into my practice for a while now. Like I was, interested in the wave when like Bitcoin was first coming up and Web3 and understanding that. And now, AI has been a big thing in the world. And a lot of the huge companies are really focusing on that. And that's something I've been looking at personally, and just how does that help out with, creative production and content pipelines to be able to help you, potentially save money or time before you go spend a lot of money on doing a huge production. You can kind of get a lot of those things handled beforehand, and you can really get some dope results. So it's been really, really interesting in seeing how, video generation has been happening. I was able to go to the Runway film festival. It was a third film festival. It was out in New York. And that was a game changer, because I was able to see with a couple other people how far this is going, and seeing how people are pushing the boundaries of what's possible, to the point where you would be midway through a short film, and you have to remember, like, wait a minute, this isn't real.
This isn't AI. This is AI.
Yeah, this is AI. And so I know that there are a lot of questions around it, and I'm just curious. I like to just kind of tinker and play around with it and figure it out. And I think that's part of my calling as well, is to, help people understand and translate that to them, and be able to give us the tools that, quite frankly, a lot of other people have access to ahead of us, or be able to leverage, and we can leverage those things too. And instead of us being afraid of the technology, we should be harnessing it and leveraging it to our benefit. And I think that's like very, very important, because it's a window right now, and I don't want us to be left behind again. Like, because we've seen Obama say like, yo, this is important as electricity. That's electricity.
I've been hearing about this.
Yes, so it's huge, and this is a time, and I think that, something else I would like to say real quick is, I wouldn't even consider myself the most technical person. I think that it's more so about seeing the landscape and seeing and paying attention to what's going on in the world, and being like, you know what, even if I'm on the bottom half or whatever, wherever it is, just getting in it and just like getting comfortable is important enough. And I think that, it soon, because I saw a quote that it said, everything is technology until it fades into the background. So at one point, this microphone was technology, like it was cutting edge, or your refrigerator was cutting edge, or your car was like this, like, oh, what? But now it's like, it's just a car.
Right.
And I think that that's something that is important for me to remember while I'm practicing my art and design, and also to communicate that with other people too.
I love it. I mean, I feel like you have brilliance out the wazoo, but what would you define as your brilliance? What makes Elliott EMK?
I think that it is my ability to see what is happening and be able to have curiosity and to not let the curiosity, scare me or stop me from anything. And then almost taking that information and bringing it to everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm naturally the first person over the hill. Like, I'll go try, I'll go see what's up. And then I'll be like, yo, it was a lot of them over there. Like, I come back with the arrows. I think that's where I am strong at, and just communicating that and being able to translate, with other people that may not understand or may not be able to vocalize what their vision is or what they're trying to achieve, and being able to say like, oh, I get it, bro, or I get it, sis. Like, let's figure that out, and let's guide the conversation, or let's build in this direction. And I think that that's where I really lie, in being able to just connect these different pieces together to hopefully make something that is unique.
Yeah.
And people can have a great experience.
I mean, and I see that you're doing it. That is the brilliance. And when you get married, people say you have to almost get a PhD in your partner, like in this other person, because it's a forever experience where you're learning them. And if music is your first true love, think of that relationship with the music as the same very vein, right? You are getting to learn music over and over again in new ways that are blending these different channels that you have, that you've picked up along the way, and you're pouring that back into your relationship with music. So I see your brilliance. It's shining. I see that, okay?
Thank you.
And I want to ask you, for others who are probably experiencing what you have with your love for music and having to balance that with being real in the real world, monetizing your skill set, making sure that you're still growing and evolving your skill set too, what would be your advice for them? How would you help them to make sure that they center it and they continue to center their passion, but they balance it with picking up other skill sets along the way?
Yeah, I would say that, always make time for your passions and your love, because that's something I didn't do a good job of at certain points in my life, and knowing that it doesn't have to be this one thing that you have in your mind. And then also figuring out other ways to still be within the waters of where your love is and your passion is, but allowing that to be the thing to help you stay afloat financially, or other things that you may want to do. So, for example, I was thinking about it maybe a couple months ago, like, oh man, I could have thought about maybe doing marketing for Shure microphones. That's like I haven't met anybody in that space, but it hit me one day. I was like, oh, that could have been a job. Or like like Yamaha or something like that, and then be like, oh yeah, you could be doing project management for Yamaha or something. So you still stay within the space, and then in your time be able to do what you want to do. So just having like that open mind, and just like kind of opening up your mind to what is possible and how you can still be within the vicinity, and not be so closed-minded or narrow-minded, because that's something that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you, Elliott, for sharing that with us too.
No problem.
Okay. And I'm going to ask all of you out there too, what is your first true creative love? And how are you re-engineering your dreams with the new skill sets that you pick up along the way? We'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Creative. And we want to remind you to always follow The Creative Corporate, where we help you to design your career and brand your brilliance. See you next time.
Let's take a look behind the creative.